Thank you, Tim, and thank you for inviting me on today. If we could just go through these slides. If you get the next slide, thank you. I'm going to touch on, as we go through these slides, there's quite a lot of detail, but due to time constraints, I'm just going to speak in a very high level. If you want further information, you can look through these slides in more depth yourself. Further, I'm going to try and break it down into a layman's perspective. I know many people that are watching today aren't seasoned geologists, so I'll try and break these terms down as simple as I possibly can. So just to focus on 2 or 3 points on this slide here. Number one, in the last 4 or 5 months or so, Torian is still in the process of over a 15,000 meter drilling program out at our Mount Sterling project. And we pride ourselves in that because at the time when we started, we were just a 10, 12, $13 million market cap company. And many companies of our size may just spend, 2 little programs a year, 2,000 or 3,000 meters here and there and hope they get lucky. Whereas at Torian, we really believe that we make our own luck through hard work and capitalizing on opportunities. And we're really actively working really hard through our drilling program, and we are starting to see some excellent results. A couple other points here. That program is obviously, as I've said, is ongoing. Results are constantly coming through, and every week or so, we are receiving results from our labs. That's generating some great news flow for us. And I will ask you to move to the next slide. So here's our corporate overview. A couple of points to touch on here. Importantly, the top 10 shareholders plus our board hold over 1/3 of the shares on issue, including Nova Minerals, who are our largest shareholder, has over 13% and have continued to support us and have verbally said to us numerous times that they're very happy with our progress and will continue to support us into the future. In terms of our cash position, we have approximately $2 million or so in cash, and we have been offered numerous opportunities in the last couple of weeks, especially as our share prices increased in terms of raising capital. So just to answer people's questions, and I know that we have been getting some questions from shareholders. If we look here, we have about 440 million options due to expire next year, and they are well in the money. We'd like that to stay that way, and that's going to bring us $9 million into the company once that happens. So between now and then, we aren't, whilst we potentially will need to raise some capital into the future over the next 12 months, we do want to keep that minimal, and we aren't looking to raise any money at this stage, particularly as we have our resource upgrade, which is due in a couple of months. So unless something absolutely extraordinary happens, we believe that we're well funded for the next straight through to our resource upgrade and beyond, and are looking to keep dilution to a minimal due to that $9 million of cash to come through from those options. We'll go to the next slide. Thank you. So talk a little bit about our projects. We are, as mentioned, we're an active gold explorer. We're going to focus on one main project today, and that is our primary focus, and that is northwest of Leonora, the Mount Sterling project. Importantly, all of our projects lie within 50 kilometers of major mining towns, so infrastructure now and into the future is not a concern for us, which is an added advantage of what we have. If we can go to the next slide. And go to the next one. Thank you. So let's talk a little bit about our main project, the Mount Sterling project. As we can see here on the right-hand side of the screen, in the pink, that's Torian's tenements, and in the white is Red 5 tenements, as you can see that they surround us, and that is their King of the Hills mine to the east. That's a 4 million ounce mine, and that's going to be restarting production very soon. Importantly, within our tenements, we have the Sterling Block to the north and the Diorite Block to the south. Within the Sterling Block, you'll see 2 little blue dots. That's Mount Sterling and Sterling Well. We currently have 2 smallish resources, 2 smallish JORC resources there, and we're working on, as we'll touch on now, proving up those resources and expanding those resources. Whereas within the Diorite Block to the south, that is where that is more blue sky opportunities, and we engage in some drilling there as well, as we'll talk through. Next slide. Really important from a geological perspective, if you look at this picture on the right-hand side, you'll see what's called the Ursus Fault Zone. Now that Ursus Fault Zone runs straight through the Sterling project, and that Ursus Fault Zone is connected with the King of the Hills mine, as well as the Gwalia mine and the Tower Hill mine, all within the region. So it's a really, really prospective zone. There's a number of targets along that zone, and that's where we we have seen incredible potential as we continue to look in that area. Next slide. And next slide, thank you. So this is what we call a long section of the Mount Sterling resource. And a long section is to imagine you are standing facing the face of the resource. The dotted line there, which is a bit difficult to make out, but you'll see a dotted line there. That is the area of which the previous 34,000 ounce resource was done. And many of those holes that are there now, those are holes that we've drilled and received results from during this current program. If you look to the on the left-hand side, that's the southeast, and the north, and on the right-hand side is the northwest. We've done a number of quite a bit of drilling from the southeast, and we're continuing to drill over the northwest. And what we found so far, and this was announced this week, that we've actually confirmed already a 600 meters strike, so 600 meters length of the deposit from the southeast to the northwest. And we've also confirmed that the resource runs at least 250 meters at depth. So that depth is also really important, because that actually tells us that what we have, if it does continue to run at depth, that's quite similar to the Gwalia mine and the Thunderbox mine, which is in the region and quite prolific producing mines. So we are expecting a number of these results from the northwest to come as well over the coming weeks, as well as what we call the guts of the previous deposit. That's going to be coming in the coming weeks. And during that period and over that period, we're expecting to continue to increase the length of our strike. We go to the next slide. So if we look at this is a cross section of one of the more prospective zones at Mount Sterling. And what this is how we've seen, as I mentioned earlier, we've just done a diamond drill hole down there towards the bottom. You'll see MSRD001. And that diamond hole has pulled up some really, really promising looking mineralization, which was announced earlier this week. And again, should that prove to contain gold ounces, that would significantly increase the size of our resource, which we're expecting a resource upgrade estimate to take place in later on in this quarter, and which would take in as much of the drilling results as we've got until this point. And then we'll continue to drill out there at Mount Sterling, and we're looking at an additional resource estimate for Mount Sterling in Q3 later on this year. Next slide, please. So this gives you a little bit of an understanding as to the length and the strike of our deposit. If you look at that red mark in the middle of the picture there, that is what is the previous resource, or the current resource. That is the area of the current resource. And as you can see, significant drilling both to the southeast and to the northwest. And we're fairly confident that the strike actually goes to about 1.25 kilometers, which is really significant considering that the average strike of a gold deposit is about 140 meters. So that's really, really exciting for us. And additionally, we've also found that there's some historical holes a further kilometer to the northwest with some gold grade. So potentially this strike actually continues for over 2 kilometers, which will just be extraordinary. Or if not, we are expecting that there's what we call structural repetition. So a similar geology which exists here would also exist further up along that Earth's fault zone. Additionally, about 1 kilometer away to the east, there's another fault zone there, which you might be able to see, that black line. There's about 5 or 6 historical shafts there as well, which historically did get some gold out there. Again, that demonstrates the potential for multiple repetitions. So whilst we're looking at Mount Sterling now as our key resource area, there's potential for multiple similar deposits within our tenements all along that Earth's fault. Next slide, please. This is Mount Sterling Well, a smaller deposit, which I mentioned earlier. It's about 16,000 ounces. We did conduct a drilling campaign there a couple of months ago, and we're expecting results from about 18 holes there over the coming weeks. We also expect an upgrade in the JORC resource in the second quarter of this year of Mount Sterling Well, and it is possible that Mount Sterling Well actually links up with Mount Sterling at some stage. Next slide. Next slide. I mentioned the Diorite Block, which gives us a lot of blue sky and some great potential also within our tenements as we continue to grow this company. So the Diorite Block is centered around some really high-grade historical mines, 563 grams per ton Little Wonder mine. We did drill about 21 holes toward the end of last year, and we're actually sending, because of what we encountered at the field, we're sending those drill holes through to multi-element analysis, potential for copper as well as gold, and that will also help us vector into the gold. So that's some great upside there at Diorite, and we're excited to release results when they come through, because again, Mount Sterling alone is incredible, and if we have that kind of structural repetition throughout our tenements, then that's really, really exciting. Next slide, and next slide. So this is our little some equipment that we purchased recently, where we have our geologists really driving up and down in that Polaris throughout our 70-odd kilometers square of tenure at Leonora, using that PXRF, which is essentially a little machine which is able to zap, so to speak, the soils and the rocks that are picked up on the ground, and you could really map out the ground and use that to systemically explore and also to create targets for future drilling campaigns. And so far we have over 50 high priority targets and 200 targets just on the Mount Sterling block. So there's ongoing exploration, ongoing drilling. As I said, we work hard and we don't rest. Next slide. So recently we entered into an option agreement to acquire the Tumul Station, which encompasses much of our Mount Sterling project. The Tumul Station includes a number of operating businesses, including a mining services business, an accommodation camp, which are all cash flow positive. And the purpose of acquiring that station would be that it gives us, first of all, the cash flow from those businesses. It brings our cost per discovery per ounce down, because of course we would own the accommodation camp where we would be, we would own the earth moving equipment, so the mining services equipment, etc. And also there's $350,000 per annum in carbon credits, which come along with that station. So we're looking, at the moment, we're still going through the option period. We are looking to minimize shareholder dilution, as I discussed earlier, and as such are looking to fund the majority of this acquisition, if possible, through debt. And we are at the moment conducting our due diligence of that. Additionally, the station also will essentially become our own landlord. So anytime we need to do anything, then for future exploration or mining permits, we're in control of that. So it does create a more seamless process. So the station acquisition is a little exciting addition to what we have going on at Torian. Next slide. Here are some of the other major mining companies at the station. Again, from a strategic perspective, it gives us great negotiating power with our neighbors, and we look forward that if we do proceed with the station acquisition, to have an excellent relationship with them moving forward. Next slide. One of the things that we've done at Torian over the last year or so, Torian historically has collected a lot of land and a lot of great projects. However, as a small company and with limited resources, we are looking to capitalize and focus on one or two main projects, and we've decided to focus on the Mount Sterling project, which is proving beneficial. As such, for the other projects, we are looking to if we were to explore those as well, it would mean that we'd have to raise additional cash, further dilution, and we simply don't have the resources to have multiple exploration projects going on at the same time. So to maintain shareholder exposure to the upside of these projects, in addition to minimizing the dilution, what we're doing with Mount Monger, for example, is we propose a spin-off of Mount Monger to its own listing. Torian will hold approximately 10% of that new company and maintain a JV interest of 20% in the project itself, and that way we retain shareholder upside. Shareholders would get priority access to that IPO should it go ahead in the coming months. Next slide. And on that note, we've got a number of projects in JV with Dampier Gold, soon to be renamed Zalika Gold. They're well funded. They've just raised $5 million in cash, and they've just announced a 30,000 meter drilling program through those projects. That's Zuleika and Crater Well, a highly prospective area. Again, that's just upside for us. Depending on the projects, we have either 25% or a 50% JV interest, which is free carry pretty much at this point. So we're excited for what they have in store there. We're not actively involved, but look, if they do have some really nice hits out there, that could only mean upside for Torian. Next slide, and next slide, and next slide. And thank you very much. As I said, I've gone through it quite quickly. There's a lot more information there. If you have any more questions, I know there's going to be a Q&A now, but for further questions, you could always get in contact with us directly, and we're happy to hear from our shareholders and anybody else that might be interested in the company.
Thanks, Peretz. We've only got time for one question, to be honest.
Yep.
You've mentioned some big names there as neighbours, Red 5, Northern Star. How closely are they watching what you're doing?
Well, look, I mean, it's like any neighbour, like in any business. I'm sure they'd be watching very closely with what we're doing, particularly Red 5, as they have tenements all around us. And if we are successful in proving up a significant deposit, well, does what that would mean for them, I guess, first of all, for their tenements, which are in the area as well, that might mean that the tenements become more prospective. And, you know, should there be any further corporate activity? I guess that's a question really for them. But yeah, as I said, we're happy to have discussions with anybody that would like to talk to us if it's accretive for both parties.